Lia Thomas. Okay, this is our sports topic for the day. One of two sports topics of the day. Yeah, double trouble. Lia Thomas. Listen, for those of you that don't know, which I highly doubt is very many of you, if you've been paying attention to the conversations that have been going on surrounding this whole case, she's been the talk of the sports world for the last week. I mean, everybody knows this girl's name, and it's personally something I think I have a very unique perspective on because I've been hearing a lot of the same echo chamber. And I think most of the same echo chamber that I hear is the same echo chamber that listens to this podcast. So I'm gonna kind of spit my perspective later, but let's go through the facts real quick because I'm sure there's some people in here that are like, Lia Thomas, who? Like, what is going on? Okay, so let's frame it for what it is. Lia Thomas was formerly a man. So she is a transgender woman. She was formerly a man. She swam as one for the University of Pennsylvania for college athletics for a while, and she was like a average swimmer. Okay, she was nothing crazy. She wasn't breaking records. She wasn't crazy. She wasn't like what's it called? The biggest name in all of college swimming as a man, right? She was an average college male swimmer. Then she transitioned back in 2019. And basically, she went through the year of hormone therapy, all this stuff, followed the NCAA guidelines that were set out in stone for her, and transitioned to becoming a woman. And now she's winning all sorts of awards. She's winning like 2 of the 500 free. She's just copping awards left, right, and center, and she's breaking records at the collegiate level. She's been proven to be like a dominating force in the in the swimming game, particularly on the women's side. And the reason why Lia Thomas has become this topic of conversation that she has is that recently she placed first in the 500 free, which is an event that I believe like Missy Franklin and like Katie Ledecky have won in the past. So it's like a big deal. And usually like that kind of tells you what like the next crop of Olympians are going to be. So she placed first in the 500 free, did really well. But here's the thing. Like, and that's what really put her on the map was that first place in the 500 free. Everyone was like, whoa, this is so unfair. This is so this and that and the other. And I got so many messages from people being like, who the hell does she think she is? The thing that people don't know is in her other two events, she placed 5th and 8th. So like, I don't know, that argument kind of goes void if you're thinking about it. But the other two events are just something people like to forget about because they have their volitions confirmed with their argument is confirmed with the first case. Anyway, that's so basically, yeah, she won the 500 free in the NCAA championships and all these things. It's turned into this whole bottle thing of controversy. So that's Lia Thomas. But why is this important? Listen, we're in a world where transgender athletes today, this is such a new conversation, but it's going to be a conversation that continues to come up and continues to come up throughout time. We are in the early stages of integrating transgender, like women and men into sports. And it's going to be this everlasting conversation of like, should they get their own league? Like, do they deserve to be allowed into the league? Like, what is going on? And there's going to be a vocal majority. I don't know if it's a majority or a minority at this point, but I think there's a vocal minority of people right now who are very just anti-transgender sports. Like, no, it's competitively unfair. The competitive advantage, they have such a competitive advantage, particularly for trans women, or particularly for trans men. No, trans women, sorry. They have a competitive advantage in all of these things. Oh, and hormonally, or their bodies are built different and all of these things. And this is the argument, like the quote unquote scientific argument that has been presented. So I'm here to say this is what I feel. This is how I feel about Lia Thomas, straight up. But I'm gonna get to that in a second because I want to keep continuing here for a little bit. So another thing is that to kind of counteract that point of like Lia Thomas, first place in the NCAA, whatever. Another thing, there also have been trans athletes that have been integrated into cisgender sports who have won nothing. They've won nothing. They've just been entered into the events, but they've not placed. They haven't won medals. They haven't won anything. We're just talking about this right now because Lia Thomas got first place in a huge event. Okay. Have you heard of Laurel Hubbard? She is a weightlifter from New Zealand. She's transgender. She weightlifted in the Olympics, and she didn't medal. Theoretically, if there was a competitive advantage for every single transgender athlete that played any sport, particularly for trans women, we should see them all dominate, right? But why? Why aren't they all dominating? I don't know. That just doesn't add up in my head. There's other transgender athletes too that I'm sure. Laurel Hubbard was the one that I knew of, but I'm sure there are other transgender athletes who haven't dominated their field. It's just Lia Thomas is the one to do that. And the thing is, weightlifting, we could talk about Laurel Hubbard for a second. Weightlifting is a sport about pure strength. It's about, if anything, weightlifting should be the sport that the biological and the competitive advantage should come into play the most. But why didn't she dominate her event? Why didn't Laurel Hubbard dominate her event? If it was all about physical strength and quote unquote, the male body is built to withstand more weight and can lift more weight, why did she not get the gold medal in her, weightlifting event? Why? It doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't make any sense. And if you're going to use the biological argument, it doesn't add up for me. Listen, Lia Thomas is, God, I hate the fucking garbage can. Hold on. Let this thing go away. Fuck the garbage truck, dude. It was in the middle of my flow. Okay, anyway. But so that's a sport about pure strength. But tell me something. Lia Thomas is competing in swimming, which yes, you need to have swimming. Like if you're built a certain way, you can win more for sure. So she's competing in swimming and she's winning, but she's not winning all the time, right? I said she got 5th and 8th. So why? And she still lost in her other 2 events. So why? I don't know. The science argument to me just doesn't add up. And I was looking deeper into the science argument just to see what exactly people are saying in regards to hormones and body type and how this all can potentially relate to competitive advantage. And there's really studies on both sides that prove both points. There isn't concrete evidence on either side to say yo, this is how I feel, and yo, this is how I feel. There are scientists that say that the competitive advantage is negligible, and there are scientists that say there is a little bit of a slight competitive advantage, if not a great competitive advantage. And so there is a lot of variation within the scientific studies, and there's not much all of us can do right now because the field is so new. Anyway, so the swimmers were hella mad that were competing against Lia Thomas, and they said she had this huge biological advantage. And I mean, dude, I can't get over this biological advantage. There's so many variables. It's such a nuanced conversation if you want to talk about the biological advantage because there's scientific studies that prove both. It's so weird. But yeah, the swimmers were really mad about it for some reason, and they didn't even shake her hand, which I thought was kind of a classless move in my opinion. It's even if someone beats you and they have a quote unquote biological advantage, you shake their hand. It's sports, okay? You lost. Look your opponent in the eye, say good game, move on. Okay, that's what you always have to do. I feel I don't know. That's just basic sportsmanship in my opinion, and that just shows a lot of disrespect. But here's the thing. I'm not here to disrespect that side too, because I totally understand. Okay. There's definitely a point on that side. A lot of people 100% have that point that she is unfair and there's biological differences because she was born a man and blah, blah, blah. But here's the thing. I'm all for trans athletes, if you couldn't tell already. I really am. And the question that gets a lot of people pissed off is, did Lia Thomas do this all fairly? And so where do I stand on it? I mean, I'm pretty sure I've been arguing the trans side this whole time. I want to start off by saying this before I get into my piece real quick. I want to start off by saying Lia Thomas, by all indications, is a really nice person. She's very quiet. She kind of keeps to herself. She's studying economics. She is a human being. Okay. So before you all get heated into this debate of transgender athletes, just remember that this is an actual human being who's dealing with the consequences of this right now. So don't hate her. Don't hate the establishment. Don't hate her. She's not doing anything wrong. She's going about her life. She's enjoying, or I hope she's enjoying her life. She's probably, she just wants to swim. At the end of the day, she's an athlete too. She loves her sport. She works hard. I'm sure she's, a good athlete. I want to give her the benefit of the doubt for sure. Listen, she's also done nothing wrong, and she transitioned to a woman for personal reasons. There's also a lot of people that don't understand what being transgender really is, which is, you know, um, like people transition to being a woman or transitioning to being a man for personal reasons. And for people to like shit on her in front of her face is like, fuck you. Like, why? You don't deserve to, like, she doesn't deserve to get shat on. She can do whatever she wants. It's a fact. So fuck them. Anyway, also, I think here's the other thing. I think the NCAA's policy on this whole transgender stuff needs overhaul, if that's clear. In regards to hormones, listen, the science does have a point. If you transition too quickly, definitely you could have some sort of advantage. And I think that's what we're seeing with Lia Thomas is that she was allowed back in very quickly. So I think what we need to do, or sports needs to do in general, is that every league throughout America and potentially also internationally needs to come up with like the same policies so that in order to do that, we like everybody's following the same hormone policies, following the same schedule, all of these things, and making sure that everything is just like the same. So it's equal and no one is doing anything more or anything less, right? Because throughout like the international Olympic policy is 36 months of hormone therapy and suppression. So all leagues I think should also kind of field into that as well, because that seems to be the most progressive policy. It is extreme, but it is the most it is the one. And also, like, I question this to everybody who's anti-transgender athletes. Like, who are you to judge someone's personal choice, right? I feel like a lot of this Lia Thomas slander, a lot of where this is coming from is this whole idea of like we believe a woman to be. We believe her to look a certain way and to act a certain way, and transgender is this like new term to mainstream society that not a lot of people are understanding. And I think we need to have empathy before we have this conversation. I think we need to really have really like just accept that fact in our heads, because a lot of us have unconscious biases. Like it's not any of your faults. It's not my fault. It's not her fault, their fault, his fault. Like, it doesn't matter. We all have them, because we grew up in a society where we're taught that, okay, X looks like X and Y looks like Y. So yeah, I think we need to have some empathy. And I just saw this when I was doing my research. Hot take here. Is Lia Thomas equivalent to the Jackie Robinson for the transgender community? I don't mean to put those two in the same conversation. And I know that like even saying that is just a hot take in general. Lia Thomas equals Jackie Robinson? I don't know. I think it really could. And I ask all these people who are very anti-transgender sports and who are very vocal about it. Do you know transgender people? Have you ever like really had a conversation with that member of the community? What do they say? I'm curious, right? Ask them. I encourage like dialogue with the transgender community. I encourage dialogue with your transgender friends if you have them, or transgender people that you know, and just ask them these questions, because we're never going to advance as a society if we don't continue to learn from each other, right? And also, why don't we talk about trans men when it comes to this competitive advantage argument? I'm so confused. Shouldn't that be a biological advantage for men, right? Oh, men have a biological advantage, and trans men are just gonna lose every time, right? Like, I don't know, dude. People should do what they want as long as they like. My philosophy in life, very very simple. People should do whatever the fuck they want, just as long as they don't get hurt, or just as long as they don't hurt other people or hurt themselves. Anyway, look, we got to humanize. My point is, we got to humanize transgender athletes before we jump to conclusions. People love to talk about the theory, and people love to talk about competitive advantage, but they don't recognize the fact that there are actual people being affected by this. And we need to look at it from empathy. And the thing is, I think this is how I totally feel about transgender athletes. Transgender athletes can be looked at from a Brown versus Board of Education perspective, separate but equal, right? Where, yes, we could recognize that they are a separate, like transgender individuals are a separate entity, but they are equal to their cisgender counterparts. And so, thus, they should be able to participate. That's how I feel. That's truly how I feel. And everything in this field is so new. Everything that continues to get written is changing day by day, hour by hour. This is a fluid situation. And so I encourage everybody's opinions to continue to be fluid. And I can say this as someone who was on the other side just a couple years ago. If you told me a couple years ago, like, oh, should transgender athletes compete with cisgender athletes? I'd be like, I don't know, competitive advantage. But the more and more I do my research, the more and more I read the signs, all of these things, I just realize it continues to be an ever moving conversation. And there's new science coming out every day. There's new rules coming out every day. There's going to be a bunch more like cases like Lia Thomas and other individuals that go into the transgender or go into the sports world, or maybe other walks of life. And we're going to see this conversation continue to flow and continue to change. So I just suggest don't keep your opinions closed, right? Let it move, let it continue to be fluid, and just have some empathy. Be nice to people who are in that situation, because you don't know what they're going through. It's probably crazy hard. So yeah, I guess that's what I would encourage, is just approach this conversation with empathy, be nice, and yeah, continue to just keep your opinion open and recognize that these athletes are human as well.